Hey, how's it going? Today we are going to check out the deck that icaterpie played at Gdansk Regional. He typically plays control decks, and this is a control deck in a sense, but it's like attacking control. It's pretty cool. The idea's been around for a little bit now. I think it was better like last format and before Shrouded Fable than it is now, but it still definitely has potential, and I don't think much changes with this newest set coming out, so it's probably going to be in the same exact spot that it is in, or that it was in for the Gdansk Regional. So the idea is we just have the 4 Mimikyu and the 2 Cornerstone Ogerpon is like our wall Pokemon, but we also attack with them. We accelerate the energy to them with Crispin. Just have to be careful with that because you do have to have 2 energies of different types in deck to accelerate any to one of your Pokemon, because you take one and put it in your hand, and then the other one, the second one, is the one you attach to your Pokemon. It's kind of a weird thing, but I'm pretty sure that's the ruling in real life as well, but I could definitely be wrong. Correct me in the comments if I am. So Mimikyu has the ability, can't be hit by EXs or Vs, and for Psychic Colorless, it does 7 damage counters to your opponent's active Pokemon, so 70 damage, which is not much, but is pretty good when your opponent can't hit into you. We also have Cornerstone Ogerpon. It can't be hit by Pokemon with abilities. And then for fighting, double colorless, it does 140 and it's a shred attack, so it goes through all effects, which is kind of almost a downside to this card because it makes it so that Mew EX can hit into the Ogerpon by copying its attack. We have the Diancie that does 40 for each special energy attached to all your opponent's Pokemon. It's basically the only way that we can beat a Lugia with multiple Cinccino's. I don't know how good the matchup is even with Diancie, but it does give us a way to knock out a Cinccino or something like that, and then we can try and wall with the Ogerpon. We have Rotom for a little bit of draw, and we have Minior for Snorlax. I'm guessing its ability lets us switch into the active every time we attach an energy to it, and then it does 20 for each colorless in your opponent's retreat cost, so it does one hit a Snorlax without a Bravery Charm or any tool card attached to it, and it can also do 160 damage to Iron Hands and Iron Thorns. And it is a pretty heavy supporter count with like the 4 Arven, 4 Colress, 2 Colress Tenacity, 1 Iono, and like those are all the cards that get cards in our hand, but we also have the 3 Pennies, 2 Boss, Crispin, and Eri. And the one thing I did change about this list, I cut a luxurious cape or a second Pal Pad. I don't know, I just didn't really fully understand the 3 luxurious cape and 2 bravery charm and 1 hero's cape. I could definitely be off on that, but I just couldn't see a world where we use 3 luxurious capes. Maybe there is. I'm probably wrong. He played this deck more than me. We have the 4 Mist Energy, of course, so that we can't be like hit by Roaring Moon or any like damage counter shenanigans. 2 Lost City so that we can lost zone any threats of our opponents. Also, we're getting really close to 900 subscribers, so if you all haven't subscribed yet and you feel like you want to, that would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, that's the deck. Let's get into the games. Alright, this first game we are up against Lost Box, which my first thought was, wow, this is a terrible matchup. And I don't know, sometimes I think about conceding these games, but I never do. I just like play every game out to the bitter end for some reason. But this is probably typically a really not so good matchup, but I figure I'd give it a whirl. We do have the Lost Cities, which if we can get rid of Sableye, Cramorant, and Greninja, we can wall with Mimikyu. And we don't even really have to get rid of the Greninja, we just have to get rid of Mirage Gates and stuff. And it'll become hard for them to use Greninja like efficiently, so we can just 2-shot him with a Mimikyu at that point. I do get up to go first. I was choosing first with this deck. I'm not sure if that's correct, but it was working out for me, so I just kept going with it. And yeah, my opponent is probably going to try and get like a Lost Vacuum Cramorant combo this turn. Definitely wouldn't be ideal for me. And they do get the Lost Vacuum, so now if they just have Cramorant and switch, we're probably in trouble, which they definitely could have had if they picked different cards off their flower selecting choices. They also got rid of an Iron Thorns, which may or may not be a good attacker in this matchup. At first I was kind of thinking it was, but in second thought, probably not. They probably should have thought like held on to it though, because I don't know if they would know what I'm playing. They would probably assume I'm playing like Black Snorlax, and then having the Iron Thorns to shut off Rotom would potentially be really good. We do have Eri in our hand, which I would really like to use, but I'm just like kind of forced to use Crispin to even get the energy out of my deck. Unfortunately, I think an Eri would have been pretty good there because they were getting rid of some pretty solid cards off of their flower selectings. So I imagine that the cards they were getting in hand were even better, like more Mirage Gates and Super Rods and stuff like that. They do get rid of a water energy. So now if one is prized, then yeah, we can have a pretty good shot, I think, of winning this game, because if they can't use Greninja at all during the game, it's much more feasible to Lost Zone Cramorant and Sableye, and they get rid of a second water energy. That's like when I started thinking, all right, we're in a pretty good spot for this game. They probably should have Pokestopped sooner, which, I don't know, you don't know the order of the deck, so it's kind of random, but you'd definitely rather have the water energies in the discard pile instead of the Lost Zone, because now, unless this person's playing a really obscure Lost Box list, they should not ever be able to use Greninja's attack. I highly doubt that they're playing 4 water energies, so I'm just going to kind of like go with the idea that they're not. Here they're taking a while to probably decide what their Lost Vacuum target is. Never mind. I was thinking they were, you know, it would make the most sense to just knock out the Mimikyu and set me back on energy attachments, but I'm perfectly fine with them hitting into the Rotom. So I'm going to hopefully get a penny off of the Pokégears. I'd rather use an energy to retreat because I really want to Eri before they get a chance to just play all of their Mirage Gates. Because we know that they have 1 Mirage Gate in their hand. They got it off Pokestop. And if I had to guess, they have 2 in their hand because they also lost Zone 1 earlier. So it would be pretty nice to have used Eri that turn, but I can't let them take 3 prizes on my Rotom with Iron Hands or just knock it out with Cramorant. Because, like I said, I think that they have 2 Mirage Gate in their hand. I know that they have Iron Hands in their hand. Oh no, they didn't get rid of Mirage Gate earlier. They just got rid of it. I was kind of mixing up times in the game. But they have been getting rid of some good cards like the water energy. So I kind of think they have 2 gates in their hand still. Now here is where just terrible things happen for my opponent. They think that they're gonna knock out my Mimikyu with Sableye, which makes sense. They want to use their damage as efficiently as possible. Put 50 on the Ogerpon, and then you can knock out the Mimikyu, put 50 on the Ogerpon, and finish off the Ogerpon with Iron Hand's arm press attack. But unfortunately for them, I do have that Mist Energy on my Mimikyu. It is kind of like unbelievably common how often people miss that. But once again, another turn where I can't Eri because I want to get rid of this Sableye while I can. So I do just use Colress to grab the double turbo in the Lost City. Put the Sableye in the Lost Zone. Now, yeah, my opponent is probably going to use the arm press to knock out my Ogerpon, which if I didn't have the Mist Energy, kind of see how important they are. If I didn't have the Mist Energy there, we'd have lost the game. I'd basically probably have had to Nest Ball for another Mimikyu last turn, and I just have a Mimikyu in play with no energy on it. Just basically let them run through my board with a combination of Cramorant and Iron Hands. Cramorant to get through Mimikyu and Iron Hands to get through my last Cornerstone Ogerpon, but now luckily I do have a Mimikyu that I can attack with. I can finally throw out that Eri, and they just have so much good stuff in their hand, it's hard to know what to get rid of. And at first I'm thinking Super Rod, but they have no Pokemon or energy in their discard pile anyway, so I just picked the Prime Catcher. And now, I don't know, I'm not really too sure. I think I probably should have just gone ahead and attached that basic Psychic to the bench Mimikyu, because then I would have been at least guaranteed to have an attack next turn. where now I can't really bring up the Cramorant and knock it out, and that's like my main concern. So I'm going to have to retreat this Mimikyu to the bench anyway and hope that they're unable to gust up the bench Mimikyu and knock it out. So yeah, I should have just attached the bench and known that I can stretch her for a Psychic or whatever next turn, and then just drawn with Rotom, or maybe not even put the Rotom down the more that I'm thinking about it, because I do, oh no, I had to put it down because I wanted to get into my boss's order in case they don't do what they're doing right now and knock out the active Mimikyu and activate Counter Catcher. This just allows it so I can definitely knock out Cram next turn. So they needed to wait until they had a boss. They might not play boss though, because they did have a Prime Catcher and a Counter Catcher, so yeah, they might just not play it. Now I am going down to 3 prizes with Rotom in play, and that is a lose condition. If they can like go Roxanne, Iron Bundle, hit into my Rotom, and then finish it off next turn with Amp You Very Much. Oh, I do put the other Mimikyu in play to play around the Iron Bundle, so that is good. And now, as long as I can get the Rotom out of play next turn, we are basically guaranteed to win the game. I'm pretty sure, at least, unless they play the 4th Water Energy, which wouldn't be very ideal. They'd be able to like vacuum. Oh no, they can't vacuum because they don't play 4 vacuum. So yeah, I think we have this game locked up as long as my hand doesn't get disrupted this turn. And even if it does, I don't have the worst odds in the world to draw into a Penny, because if they Roxanne, they can't boss up the bench Rotom, and I'll be able to draw 3 before they can bring it up. But they do just play the boss now, so at this point the game, I'm pretty sure the game's locked up. I don't think that they play like the Zapdos that does 190 that people played before, so I just Penny my Rotom and they immediately concede, and we end up winning that pretty bad matchup. So this game I'm playing against Snorlax here, and this is like basically halfway through the game, but the first half of the game was incredibly boring. Basically the only thing that you missed was I bossed up a Snorlax and used the Minior to knock it out. Other than that, we were kind of rotoming back and forth. Turn 1 I put down Rotom, they hit me with 06 Machinations or whatever that card's called. It made me discard like 6 cards out of my hand. So after that, I was trying to keep my hand size down because they immediately Pal Padded it back. And yeah, that was kind of a pain. But, oh, and I spent, time building up my attachments in play. I retreated my Mimikyu at some point. Or no, I used the Minior, like I said. And yeah, I'm just trying to keep my hand relatively around 3 cards, trying to hang on to stadiums to get around the Temple of Sinnoh. And I would like to build up enough energy in play to be able to retreat anything. I also have to get this Minior out of play at some point because it's going to be a real problem. Now I do top deck the Psychic, that's kind of nice. Another thing I'm kind of worried about is Eri. I kind of have to try and play around that as well, which I've been trying to do. They did Eri me once already with barely any cards in hand. So I think that then they Pal Padded back the Eri as well, or they normally play a couple anyway, so regardless, doesn't matter. I retreat the Minior and grab back a Fighting because it seems like that could be more useful. Maybe I should have grabbed Psychic, I don't know. But I just don't want to have the items in my hand. And now, kind of at the penny loop stage of the game, and I just need to just keep doing this, try not to play too many cards, and hope that at some point they start whiffing pennies. I decided to shuffle my deck because I believe there was an Iono played at some point, and I think I had Colresses at the bottom, and that would be a nice card to have access to get the stadiums back and stuff. And there might have been a penny at the bottom as well, I'm not sure. They do get another Temple of Sinnoh, and Temple combined with Boss or Counter Catcher here is going to be pretty annoying. Yeah, because I just won't be able to attack unless I get into a stadium or just like a penny, but I don't know. I don't have the highest hopes of top decking that. They Nest Ball for another Rotom, which is kind of funny, but they needed a place to put their Forest Seal Stone. Also, it's kind of weird. The game's like a little buggy almost. When I attack with the Shred attack on Ogerpon, it says it's going to do 0 damage to like Mimikyu and opposing Ogerpons, but it is of course a Shred attack, so it goes through that. Well, at first during this game, I thought that the attack wasn't working correctly. I was like, figures. But yeah, they just pass. They don't want to deck out, so, or they don't use Rotom, I'm guessing because they don't have a way to not deck out. So that kind of gives me a little bit, makes me a little more hopeful about this matchup, because I can win by deck out or taking my prizes, and both of them are pretty feasible at this point. Oh, they do have the Team Yelch here and Silene Pal Pad combo, so actually, yeah, they're probably not decking out. I don't know why they wouldn't draw with Rotom last turn. That's kind of weird. Maybe they were worried about an Eri of my own, which I don't have access to at the moment, unfortunately. Now I'm just passing back and forth. I'm really waiting to top deck a Penny. I would prefer to not retreat any more energy off. They do use Misfortune Sisters and hit one of the last items in my deck in that Nest Ball. I think I have like the Nest Ball and a Stretcher card left, and that's about it for items, because a couple turns ago I'm pretty sure I tried to Arven for Pokégear, didn't have any left. So yeah, I attached the Mist to the active to the bench to play around Sinnoh and Giacomo or Giacomo or whatever it is, because if I put on the active and they did that, they would be able to discard 2 energy, and that would put me pretty far back. Now they do play an Iono, which is pretty awesome for me. It, you know, gives me a whole new hand. That other hand wasn't getting me anywhere, but it does look like I was gonna start top decking decent stuff within the next couple of turns. Now I penny up the Minior, and this is a really kind of a weird point in the game where I have to think about the 0-6 machinations and attach an energy, but I'm also worried about the Giacomo and Erica's hospitality. So I thought about benching the Minior, but I figured that my best win condition in this game right now was that their Erica's was prized, because often they do only play one. So that's kind of what I was thinking. I'm going to hang on to that. If Erica's is prized, I probably just win. If it's not, then I'm going to be in a pretty rough spot, because I'm down, I believe, both Pal Pads and 1 or 2 pennies. And I'm going to need to use the last penny to get the Rotom out of the active at some point. Another thing that makes this matchup rough too is I think this is the 4 Mist Energy build, where that makes my Mimikyu's attack completely useless, which is kind of unfortunate. And here I do believe I make a pretty, I don't know if this is a mistake actually, this is a really weird turn. I have boss in hand, so if they don't have a penny in their hand, I have guaranteed win next turn. But I figured in their 10 card hand they probably have penny, so I decided to Iono them and just keep swinging, hopefully get some of those resources out of their hand, like mainly pennies. We do draw into a Psychic Energy, which is always going to be a nice card to have around in this matchup right now. They have gotten pretty close to a point though where they're going to be able to lock some of my guys in the active with their Snorlax, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, so they do retreat and promote that Snorlax, and now I'm wishing that I had the boss in hand, but like I said, I'm pretty sure they would have had penny regardless if I didn't play the Iono, so it's kind of the same. Now they do bench the other Snorlax and start penny looping again, which is kind of unfortunate, but we have 17 cards in deck, so that's 16 more attacks. I'm pretty sure, like I said, that we're just about out of items, so they're not going to be able to mill a lot with the Misfortune Sisters. And since I top deck a second Psychic, I do just decide to attach the other one in hand. I want to keep an energy around in my hand and just having Mimikyu built up to attack is always kind of nice. Now they boss up my Rotom and Pal Pad for 1, which is interesting. I think that's kind of a mistake. And we get kind of bailed out here and top deck Penny, which is pretty excellent. Them not putting the Penny back too is really interesting. I guess they're thinking that they're going to buy a turn right here and then play Team Yell's Cheer and get back Xylene, Penny, and whatever else, Misfortune Sisters or Eri probably. And here I'm also debating playing around Erica's by benching the Rotom, but they did just put Boss back, so I figure that they're guaranteed to have a Gusting card, but if they prize the Ericas, then I'm good to go. And if they had Ericas, there was a good chance that they would have just played it the turn I had the Minior in hand. So now that they haven't played it here, they have access to basically their whole deck. I'm kind of thinking, all right, I think I have this game basically locked up. If they play Xerosic Machinations, I don't really care at this point because it's not a Penny. And they do boss up my Mimikyu though, which is kind of annoying, but as long as they don't have... Oh, even if they had a Mist, it wouldn't matter because they have the Temple in play. And now with this Eri, I get to look at their hand and see that they have no pennies. So they might have prized a few pennies, which is, I don't know, probably going to like be the way that I win this game, unless this last card in deck is... No, yeah, at this point I have the game locked up because if the last card in deck was Penny, it wouldn't matter because they'd be decked out. We saw they had no Pal Pads in hand because we would have got them with Eri. So this card needs to be a way to put back other cards, which is only Team Yell's Cheer at this point, because they have, what, 3 Pal Pads in the discard pile. So as soon as they play the Yell Cheer, now I know unless their last card was a switch card, we have won this game, which this game was really a grind. They do just end up conceding. Yeah, that game was kind of insane. I didn't record the first half because I kind of thought I was going to lose, but I have this problem where I'm too stubborn to just concede against Snorlax, but I guess I'm glad I didn't because we ended up winning it. And I don't know if I would have put the first half of the game in there anyway, because it would have been like a 20-minute game on 2x speed, because the first half was pretty boring. It was just passing back and forth like a lot of the game was. But yeah, I just tried to conserve my resources, didn't play cards when I didn't need to, and tried to play around the Eris and Xerosics, and ended up taking the dub. I definitely think this archetype is pretty cool. I like the idea of the Mimikyu Ogerpon decks. I also think Noivern could be a good inclusion in them sometimes depending on the meta. But yeah, that is the deck. Like or dislike, comment, and subscribe, and have a good one.